Hello everyone! It is the first Tuesday of the month, which means I'm going to be answering questions from you guys. So I'm going to preface this by saying, and this is going to be more and more true the more of these Q&A videos I do, a lot of these questions that were asked I have covered in previous videos. I'm not going to be a dick and be like, you should have already watched that video. Go back and watch like all of my videos before you ask me questions. But I will be answering them very briefly and then providing links in the video description to the videos where I answer them in more detail. Also, I have shortened and paraphrased these questions. I have gathered these questions from Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube community tab, and I got a nice hot cup of tea with me, so let's get started. So from Twitter, @BarrettClement asks, would you recommend translating for a career? Depends on who you are. In general, actually, I would not recommend translating as a career. And now suddenly everybody unsubscribes from my channel. Well, wait. So I would not recommend it to most people because I think it takes a very certain kind of temperament for someone to be a translator, especially the kind I am, which is a freelance, like at home. There's so much to that. You have to be self-motivated, self-disciplined. You have to not mind not seeing people and being by yourself all the time. So if you're not that kind of person, I would not recommend at least freelance translating to you. Yeah, and if you don't already have, if you're not already bilingual, if you don't already have a really good command of your target language or your native language, the language you're going to be translating into, I would not recommend it as a career. And like, if you're like older and it will just take you that much longer to get started, and you already have a career that you're in, or you already have other skills you could be using, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. But if you're already bilingual, if you're really good at writing, if you're driven, if you are self-disciplined, and if you like working all by yourself, then yes, I recommend translating as a career. Oh, and also if you don't mind having financial insecurity from time to time. From YouTube community tab, shadow of the apple tree arboriculture. I can read. I'm not wearing my glasses. I can't read very well. I'm thinking about getting into translation work. A friend voiced concern for me that modern translation techniques might reduce a lot of the need for translators and so decrease the demand for them. As a translator, could you see that happening, or do you think that such technology will never be good enough to replace real people? I did a video about this. So the short version is, yes, robots are getting really good. AI is getting really good at translating, but you know, they're getting good at pretty much every other job out there too. So we're all in the same boat, translator or not. However, within the translating industry, it is the tech translating, the medical translating, the legal translating, the more dry, boring stuff, the kind of translating that I don't do actually, and that sometimes people talk down to me for not doing because it's somehow considered lowly to translate anime. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, it is the tech, legal, etc. kind of translating jobs that will be the first to go, and they already are going. I have done a couple translation jobs over the last couple years that were more just fixing machine translated stuff. So yeah, it's already happening, but in the anime and game industry, anything that involves localization and artistry, it's going to take a very long time, I think, for AI to become sophisticated enough to even begin. They might, you know, translate anime and games, and then humans will have to go back and edit and make sure that it sounds good. But I don't think it'll ever be, I don't think humans will be ever completely replaced in localization. Shakerful Hider asks, I'd like to get into translation. I don't have any degree on linguistics or anything. Is it possible to make it? I've kind of answered this before in various videos. I don't have a degree in linguistics. I don't have a degree in translation. I don't have a degree in Japanese or in English. My degree is in theater arts with dance emphasis. I had a minor in Japanese, but not like a full degree, and I'm a translator. So no, you don't need a degree, but it certainly helps a lot. Like from what I can tell, listening to all the other translators I've been talking to, I'm kind of an anomaly in that I don't have a degree in any of those fields. A degree definitely doesn't hurt if you are in a good place to get that degree, if it's not going to put you like $200,000 in debt. Jonathan asks, can I live in Japan by working as a translator? By the way, I'm learning Japanese now and think there is actually a lot of translators, right? Yeah, so this is another one of those along the lines questions of, is it worth trying to become a translator? Aren't there already a lot of people saturating the market? Certain language pairs, yeah, the market is pretty saturated. I'm learning, because a lot of people ask me about Arabic and Farsi, and those two language, like Arabic English and Farsi English, those pairs, like the market is very saturated with them. Certain language pairs, the market is not saturated, but I honestly don't have the hard data on that. I know just for me personally, with the pair of Japanese English, I do usually get enough work, but it's a little inconsistent. As far as working in Japan as a translator goes though, I think if you want to live in Japan, honestly, I feel like your best bet is not to translate. I think it's to like get just any old job. They need workers in Japan and they are relaxing their immigration requirements. I don't know, I don't have any first-hand knowledge of this, but I watch a lot of J YouTubers and they talk about this a lot. Check out that Japanese guy Yuta if you don't know about him, or Life Where I'm From is another good resource for information along those lines. Yeah, I think your easiest gateway to working in Japan is teaching English. That's the route a lot of people go. But as far as like being a translator to work there, you'd have to get a job with an actual agency or company in Japan, which I actually have. I could probably pull strings and use my position as an independent contractor with a Japanese firm to perhaps get a residency in Japan. But it's kind of a long shot. Like if your goal is to live in Japan, I would say like go for some different job like teaching English or anything, working in a convenience store. I mean, they need workers. So if you learn the language pretty well to a decent degree, and if you really want to embrace and become a part of their country and their culture, then I say just like go for it. Just go to Japan and get any old job. You don't have to translate. Topeka Adkins asks, what equipment do you need as a translator? What equipment do you use? A lot of people ask about this. They seem to think that you need a lot of software and books and stuff. But for me, I use a computer, an internet connection, and Excel. Those are like the main three like programs and equipment that I use. Just a PC, an internet connection, and Microsoft Excel. Sometimes I use Word, rarely. Usually it's Excel. And then occasionally I will use MemoQ, which is a CAT tool or software. In fact, last night I was working on a job last minute on MemoQ. Yeah, the learning curve isn't so hard. I mean, I struggled for a few hours trying to kind of configure and set it up, and I had to like uninstall and reinstall the program on my computer. But once you get over that hurdle, like I'd say a solid day of struggling and learning, the program is easy enough to use, so it's not really a big deal. If this were pre-internet, I would probably also have a lot of dictionaries. I remember my dad, who's a German to English translator, he had a bunch of dictionaries and stuff like that before the internet. But now if I encounter a word or phrase I don't know, I just look it up on Japanese Google. 555327, beautiful name, asks, do you know anything about the French-English translation market? Also, what's the best way to start practicing translation? So French-English translation market, I don't know. I don't know anything about any of the markets except Japanese English, honestly. I know stuff from like what I hear from other people who watch my videos, and I'll ask right now, hey, if any one of you guys watching this video right now knows stuff about the French-English market of translating, please leave a comment below. I will pin it so that whoever wants to know the answer to that can just check the pinned comment in the comments section and hopefully learn a little bit about the French-English translation market. The only thing I know is one of the agencies I work for, I translate games from Japanese to English. They also translate the games into French and German and some other languages, and they often will go from the English translation of the Japanese translation into French or German and not from Japanese to French or German. So that's one thing I know, but that's pretty much all I know. As for what's the best way to start practicing translation, I always say just do it. Go on the internet and just look at web pages and just translate them. Honestly, like you'll learn so much just from doing that. Time yourself when you're translating it and see how long it takes you to do something. Keep track of how many times you had to look up a word. That kind of data will help you. Nathan Davies asks, what would you say to someone who is still in the process of learning the language he wants to work in? How can one elevate their language skills since they feel like they can't understand anything despite having passed the relevant exams? Yeah, so if you've passed exams and then you still don't feel like you're understanding the language, to me that says that you're studying too much by the book and you're not studying the language enough, like you're not using the language enough, you're just kind of studying it and memorizing it. That's what that says to me. I don't know that that's necessarily the case. To get over that hurdle of actually understanding the language and being able to apply it and use it, the best way is always to just go to that country and live there for at least a year. Try to be fully immersed. Try to not use English at all. Try to not talk to or see any English-speaking people and only use Japanese or the language that you're trying to learn. That's one way. Another way is make sure you're consuming a lot of media in that language that you're trying to learn, and consume it without subtitles. Like, force yourself to just consume it. Even if you find you don't understand it at first, like try to find stuff that's like at least interesting otherwise. Very vibrant, very colorful, a lot of action. Try to find children's TV shows, children's songs, children's books. Those are really good ways of learning another language. To the point where you can actually understand it versus just kind of like memorizing the textbooky version of the language. Jeremy Brent, hey, I know that guy. He asks, what's the most difficult or awkward thing you have ever translated? Well, I did do a video a long time ago on the most difficult thing I ever translated, and I think to this date it still is the most difficult thing I ever translated. It was a big tech programming kind of thing, and I didn't even understand it after I'd translated it into English because it's a subject I don't know, and it took me like I had to work 10 hours one day, like 11 hours another day. Yeah, it was awful. As for the most awkward thing I had to translate, probably porn. Mule Chico Stalking Channel asks, what is your favorite Sailor Moon episode? Ooh, that's hard, cause, okay, back when I was a Supreme Moonie, in the late 90s, my favorite episode was actually 6 episodes. It was the first 6 episodes of Sailor Stars, the Neherenia arc. I loved it, and I watched it without subtitles. This was like right after it had come out. I got it at our local video rental store, our local Japanese video rental store. Didn't understand it. It was purely in Japanese. It was like recorded off the TV and bootlegged over here. But I loved it because I loved the music. I love Neherenia. She's a great villain. I love that it had all of the senshi in it, including Saturn. It's like one of the rare parts of the series where Saturn actually gets some legitimate screen time. I liked the story. I just liked it a lot. Now as an adult though, I'm not as into like the epic climactic kind of episodes of Sailor Moon where they save the day and such. I'm more into the funny episodes, like the filler kinds of episodes where they're just being silly girls. I kind of prefer that. So I remember also when I was younger, and it still holds up, I rewatched the series like 5 years ago, and I really liked the episode. It was in Supers, which is like my least favorite season, but they had some really good like filler episodes and civilian moments. But it was the episode where Mamo-chan had to stay at Rei's shrine, and she walked in on him in the bath and saw him naked, and then like Usagi, meanwhile, the whole time was like really insecure that Mamo-chan was staying at her shrine, was like dressed up as a ninja and was like stalking him and Rei, and like I found that very amusing. Yeah, while I'm editing this video, I'll probably think of like a bunch of other episodes that I like better than that and that I should have mentioned. So I'll just stick with that Neherenia arc. Zheng Hao? Don't think I pronounced that correctly, sorry. Asked matcha, hojicha, or genmaicha? Ooh, oh, it depends on my mood. So matcha is powdered green tea, hojicha is roasted green tea, and then genmaicha is like toasted brown rice and green tea. So they're all forms of green tea. It depends on my mood, but matcha is not my favorite. I really do like every once in a while like a traditionally prepared matcha in the large bowl cup, you know, whisked and frothed with water. I do actually like that. And it is really good with like those plain Japanese sweets, the kind that are like just pure sugar, kompeto. But usually matcha, because it's so expensive, like I always have this little tin of it in my pantry and I barely ever use it because I'm like, it's so expensive, I have to save it for a special occasion. So I usually just wind up not even using it. Occasionally when I bake, I'll put it in a cake or a pudding or a frosting or something. Hojicha and genmaicha, it really just depends on like if I want some kind of refreshing Asian tea, and if I want more caffeine, I'll kind of go for the hojicha if I want something stronger, and then if I want something lighter, I'll go for genmaicha. But yeah, put a gun to my head, I think genmaicha is probably my favorite. And then David Humphrey, I know that guy, asks, can you drop by rehearsal? Well, it'll take me like 13 hours to drive there, depending on traffic, and cost me full round trip probably about $140 to $150 in gas, so I'm gonna have to pass. Well, that concludes this month's Q&A Tuesday. If you want to ask me questions for my next Q&A Tuesday video, don't ask them now because I'll probably forget that you asked them. About a week before I do the video, I post on my Twitter or my Facebook or the YouTube community tab a prompt asking for questions, so add me on Facebook or Twitter or subscribe here, and then you'll probably be able to ask me a question for the next month's video. Bye! Oh, hi! Thanks for watching that video. If you want to support me for free, like, comment, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff, you can also add me on the Facebook or the Twitter. Or you can head over to my Etsy shop where I have Sailor Moon, Ai no Minako, and all sorts of other amigurumi for sale. If you're feeling even more generous, I have a Patreon now. For just $1 or $2 a month, you can get special perks like your name in the credits, or a secret monthly video. Or you could just binge watch all my videos to the end, trick the almighty algorithm into thinking that I'm popular. Do it for the kitties. Bye.